Hello, everyone. I'm going to call to order our study session special meeting of the Town of Atherton City Council, October 1, 2025 at 3 p.m. Will I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Widmer.
Yep.
Councilmember DeGolia.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holland.
Here.
Mayor.
I'm here. So at this time of the meeting, we are opening it up for any public comment. Public comments can be emailed directly to our email address at Atherton. But as a special meeting, this portion is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter that is on the agenda. And you will have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone want to do a public comment at this time? You have 3 minutes. Anything on the agenda? If not, oh, hi. Yes, no, you come, go over there, so you,
Thank you. Hi.
is there a mic?
No,
That's all right.
we
We
don't
don't need you. We don't need everyone.
Oh, we have this
That's
whole
improvement.
TV.
My legal name is Robert Shackleton. I go by Woody. Commenting on discussion of plans for El Camino and bike paths on Selby Lane. I object to any paths on Selby Lane because if you're walking and the police says walk the bike lane, the bikers should just run over you because they're tired of that lane, so I'm going to walk. Also, I think I'm in favor of speed bumps. The speed bump they put in is atrocious to me. It's obnoxious. It's no matter how slow you go, 1 mile an hour, it's uncomfortable. Whereas all over Redwood City, there's asphalt ones that mitigate speed but are very easy to go over. I just think we could do a better job of putting in the speed bump over there on Selby Lane by the school. So I think it's appropriate. To me, relative to El Camino, I hate the idea of going from 3 lanes, 2 lanes. I think there's plenty of room existing to just add a white bike lane. There's a white line now, just give it a couple yards and to the right and have a bike lane without having to have all the green and the stripes. And the only place where we've had a death by a bicyclist was on a designated bike lane at Middlefield Road and Incident, so it shows that it doesn't necessarily work particularly effectively for bike safety. So, but I think I think it's Shamrock. There's a funny name for it if you have a picture of a bicyclist driving.
The Sharrows?
Sharrows. I think Sharrows are very effective. You see them all over the area, and that reminds drivers to be aware of bikers and give them their appropriate space. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else, any other member of the public like to speak at this time?
And there's no one online.
And there's one online.
No.
There's no one online. Okay, go ahead, Sandra. Remember, you're going to speak on matters that are on the agenda.
On the agenda,
On the agenda.
okay. Yeah, I'm Zach Whitman, I live in Selby Lane, and I think I have talked to enough people in my area of town that appreciate the rural character of our town and drive on El Camino Real a lot. And I think I share the feeling of a lot of people. I think it's pretty stupid to go from 3 lanes down to 2 lanes in El Camino Real. It's there are so many cars that travel through there. We all benefit from being able to get through Atherton in a more expeditious way. I think there's more than enough room to be able to put a bike lane off to the side. I've heard word that there is an interest in trying to put signal on every corner of Atherton. God forbid. You know, again, I think this takes away from some of the rural character of the town. I think that it will also, I think, slow down some of the traffic that moves through. And if there's ever a power outage, every traffic signal becomes a stop sign and further slows things down. I think it's just another effort from people who are out in the Caltrans or Sacramento, whoever is behind this, to try and, you know, there's pressure on one side, you know, that's counter to the efforts of the push, you know, more housing density. It's going to put more cars on the road, and here we're going to have fewer lanes. So I just think we need to keep 3 lanes in El Camino Real and keep it the way it is.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Yes.
Hello, my name is Carol Speaker, and I would like to speak to the Grand Boulevard Initiative. I have trouble understanding why it's even considered, because these large arterial ways are to transport cars from one area to the other. And if you make them narrower, just look at what happens to El Camino down by Valparaiso, and you create this bottleneck. And I'm assuming more people are like me, they'll do anything to avoid El Camino at certain times, which pushes us onto neighborhood streets. And I think that is a dangerous thing for motorists and for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any other member of the public that can make a public comment at this time on items that are on the agenda? Yes, please, just state your name and on the agenda.
Robert Laurie. I just saw Zach Whitman's email about this proposal. I'd like to thank Zach for sending it down. I have to say, you know, El Camino is very congested as it is. And this proposal is a good way to make our town unlivable. And I can't believe that this is a serious proposal. Is someone here from Caltrans or whoever it is to justify this? Is
There's a.
Yes. Yeah,
that coming up?
that's the first item on the
I
agenda.
can't wait to hear
Yeah,
it.
good. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. All right, anybody online?
No.
Any other member of the board would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. And our first item in our study session is the presentation of the Grand Boulevard Initiative Progress Update. And it is an oral report, and I'm going to turn it over to our Works Director, Robert Abadia.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you are aware, there's a countywide effort to take a look at El Camino Real and envisioning it for the future. This effort has been, is currently sponsored by Samtrans with support from TA and the various communities along.
TA is the
San Mateo
Authority.
County Transportation Authority, along with support from Caltrans and all of the jurisdictions along the corridor. This effort has started about a year ago in terms of gathering public input from stakeholders. There was a public outreach effort, including outreach to our residents to gather feedback. And we have Cassie here from Samtrans is going to be giving a presentation, and then there are also folks, additional folks from Samtrans as well as from the Transportation Authority that are here to answer any questions that you may have as the presentation goes through. And so with that, I'm going to Cassie, do you want to, you can drive it from here.
Great, thank you, everyone. My name is Cassie Halls. I'm a manager of major corridors at Samtrans, and I'm joined by Jess Manzi from the TA, as well as Michaela Wright-Petrick from Samtrans. And what I'm providing today is a progress update on a year of work on the Grand Boulevard Initiative. So the Grand Boulevard Initiative is a multi-agency.
You lost it.
We lost it. It's trying to cycle back in.
Your computer.
The Zoom.
Okay.
Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Present, he'll put it out. So if you can go to the second slide on there.
Yes, give me one.
Cassie, go ahead.
Any more of these things out to the public at all?
Yes.
Did any member of the public get one of these handouts? Does, oh, well, okay. And you have more?
There you go, guys. Anybody want this? All right, here it is. What do you want? Anybody else need some? How about? We're going fast.
If you have a copy, next time we can take one and like, you can get us.
All right, there you go.
I think it's fine.
I'll leave them up here for anybody else.
So-
I think we need one,
Should we get a
Right,
couple
right.
on this side?
just one.
Go ahead, Jessica.
So the Grand Boulevard Initiative is a multi-agency partnership, as Robert mentioned, between the TA, Caltrans. Caltrans actually is joining these council meetings, but they were unable to come today because the staff member is sick, but he'll be joining in future ones as well. But public agencies as well as all the cities up and down El Camino and San Mateo County. And the whole purpose of this effort is to implement transportation improvements on El Camino. And the fact sheet that we've handed out to you all is about our planning study called the GBI, which is the conceptual that will lay the foundation for this work. Next slide. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context. I really appreciate all the comments in this room and just the local knowledge of how you all are using El Camino. What we're hearing up and down El Camino in San Mateo County and the jurisdictions along El Camino is that there's a lot of safety and mobility issues along the corridor, and so there's a lot of pedestrian deaths disproportionate to the length of the corridor. And then we also have just a lot of, changing mobility needs and a lot more housing along the corridor, which is going to require, more, bigger picture thinking about what the options are on the corridor, like how we can better promote bus usage, bicycle access, things like that. And from the Samtrans perspective, we, run all the bus services within the county, and Route ECR in particular is our bread and butter service. We have a lot of transit riders who are relying on that service, and we're dedicated to improving the speed and reliability of Route ECR. And so, we bring that perspective, and we're working closely with our city partners and all the other public agency partners that have, a broader mindset as well. But how are we planning to transform El Camino? We're starting with this planning study. We also have been working closely with all of our city partners, including Robert, the town of Atherton, and all the other jurisdictions, to build consensus about what people want to see along the corridor. And it's very different for each jurisdiction. So I would say there's not one vision that we're trying to implement. We're trying to build in more resilient infrastructure along the corridor that's responsive to local context. And the base of this is that we have to go through this Caltrans project development process, which I'll talk about more. But why we're doing this is that what we're hearing up and down El Camino is people want more vibrancy on El Camino. They want more placemaking and make it feel as if they can enjoy the corridor. They want to increase economic vitality, have more street trees and sustainability elements, and also support all the future housing on the corridor. Next slide.
May I interject? I just have one comment, just hearing what you're saying. I can see that what other people are wanting or other cities are wanting because they have retail, they have housing along. We don't. We have 1.6 miles of El Camino. And on either side are our homes that either back up. Some homes face El Camino, but not a lot. We have no retail. We do not plan for any retail or vibrancy. So what we need is a safe El Camino corridor with the ability to have our residents walk from one side to the other, like on the west side to come east to go to the park or go to the town center safely. And to that end, we've done some hybrid beacons, pedestrian activated crosswalks, which has made a big difference. But so I think we're the only town along the whole corridor that is different from everybody else. Go into Menlo Park and there's vibrancy and hotels and restaurants and shops. Go to Redwood City, we've got parking. So just put that in context. I think, talking like to us, because,
Yeah,
we're
no,
very different.
thank you, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
And that is one of the beautiful things about El Camino is it is so different in each jurisdiction and the needs of local communities are so different for
Yeah,
each.
okay.
But
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's great, but I think there are some themes that we're seeing, which is the safety, as you're talking about, and mobility, as we can define it, being able to move along the corridor for all users. So this slide just goes over the structure of the Grand Boulevard Initiative. So it is a task force and a working group that consists of city and agency staff, as well as advocacy groups, business groups, and then we have a more focused working group that's just the city and agency staff. And we've been working over the past year to really have, Samtrans is sponsoring this effort. However, we really want the cities to be the ones leading the work and defining how we're moving forward. Next slide. This slide just covers the different agency partners that are involved. So I mentioned the TA and also Caltrans, MTC and CCAG are also involved, and those are also regional agencies that are helping us figure out the path forward. MTC is funding the grant that we use for this project. Next slide.
We don't have questions during this portion, but after she's done, the council may allow you to ask questions.
So GBI is coordinating along a variety of studies that are underway on El Camino, including in town of Atherton, the El Camino project that you all did with Menlo Park. And what we're trying to do is set the regional vision, and we know that a lot of the local visions are being defined by the cities, through studies or other planning efforts. So what GBI is an umbrella program that kind of brings together all of these local plans and sets like a broad menu of options for what we can do to modernize the corridor. Next slide. So I'm going to speak a little bit about this GBI action plan. Next slide. So this plan is intended to be laying out the path forward for how we can make improvements along the corridor. And so we are currently evaluating corridor-wide needs, establishing a cohesive vision, and building momentum around implementation. So the way that we're going to do this is through this coordinated Caltrans process. We're working closely with Caltrans in order to make it so that each city doesn't have to go through it alone and having this long, time-intensive and infrastructure-intensive project, that we can do it as one county go through this process. Next slide. This slide just is an overview of today. We're presenting to you all, and we're doing council presentations up and down El Camino in the county, and that will be reflected in our final action plan. All of the input that we received today will be incorporated in the action plan. And we're also seeking adoption by Samtrans and the TA board in the start of the new calendar year. Next slide. So we have done a lot of extensive work with cities to understand what are the various visions for the corridor. Definitely recognize that what you expressed today is a maybe slightly different vision from this, but what we're hearing up and down El Camino is that people want a safe and vibrant street where people of all ages and ability can travel comfortably. So whether you're picking up your school child from the bus stop or elderly person crossing the corridor, that you feel that El Camino is safe for everyone. Next slide. And building off of this vision, what we found when we, all the cities worked together to identify problems, what we found were consistent issues were related to safety. So we have an unusually high rate of fatal and serious injury crashes along the corridor, particularly for people walking and biking. We also have El Camino Real has a highway-like design that discourages walking, biking, and transit use. And then lastly, it is very challenging for cities to go through the process, the Caltrans process, in order to make changes. So the goals that we've defined as a part of the action plan is to adopt a safety-first mindset, to eliminate fatal and serious injury crashes, to transform El Camino Real into a complete street that works for all users, and to create a new framework for change that aligns vision, process, and funding. Next slide. So one thing I'll note here is that we have a menu of things that working with cities we've identified are potential next steps of the types of improvements we could make. But that doesn't mean that these improvements are going to be in all cities. And each city and town has unique needs. Town of Atherton doesn't need bus lanes, for example, because the buses travel pretty fast. So there are all these various streetscape changes that we're considering for various segments of the corridor, based on what we've heard from cities. And we are not, GBI is not saying, this city needs to do this. What we're saying is these are all the options of what cities can do and trying to create more cohesive experience across the corridor.
If I may ask a question,
Yes.
okay, make
Mr.
a
Whitman.
comment. So, I went through this chart specifically, and, I just want to give you some feedback. First off, I'm not really sure with all these things that you're trying to put in, for example, all the traffic calming, what's the impact you think is going to be for the throughput? So that's one. The traffic signal gap, I read that as at every intersection you want to have a light or something like that. And so that again raises some concern. We don't have space. We got the houses right there on the side of the road. So we don't have space for wider sidewalks, bikeways, putting trees in it everywhere, medians. And, I think you mentioned quickly, the bus lanes. If you look at the buses that drive through Atherton and Menlo Park, the drivers on them, period, at the end. There's nobody else. So no one's using the bus down at this part of the town. And so the need for a bus lane or having the buses that are going to Palo Alto turn around and come back to be able to manipulate the street lights or the stoplights just doesn't sit well. So the overall, the big question is, and as many of our residents have brought up, what's going to be the throughput input? How much are we going to slow down the traffic and make it more congested to implement all of these things? So I think that it's important that we pay attention to. I heard you say it's going to be different in each town, but that's not what I'm hearing.
Mr. Whitman?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Wait, you want to respond to him?
I'd like to respond to a little bit, but I'll go ahead and let the.
I just have a clarifying question. I don't know what a traffic signal gap closure is. So as part of your,
Happy.
that would be helpful.
And
So-
I'll add to that also, it's not clear what traffic calming on El Camino Real would be. So we know what it is on our neighborhood streets because we've done a lot of work on that. But I have no idea what that would be on El Camino.
And
So I will try and answer some with response saying that the town has initiated its effort at looking at El Camino Real through our gap closure study. And so that effort and that we've gone through public input with our residents to get a handle on what the needs and issues are along El Camino, that was presented to you. And through that process, we have selected two primary alternatives for further evaluation of how the town would like to see El Camino Real. The partnership with Samtrans, the Transportation Authority, and Caltrans is intended to help each jurisdiction implement their vision, whatever that vision is. It is very difficult for a community such as ourselves to take on the challenge of improving El Camino by ourselves. It is, I think the estimate that was presented this week was about $750 million to do the entire in San Mateo County. That is,
Yeah, but we've got one.
so we have 1.5 miles of that, but that 1.5 miles is in the probably 50 to 75 million dollar ballpark right now. It is not something that the town can do. So there are efforts to support each jurisdiction, not just helping coagulate your vision into an overriding document, but further to move that through a partnership with Caltrans so that approvals become easier and we are not independently required to deal with them on our own to help do that. I do want to remind everybody that El Camino Real is a state highway. And in theory, Caltrans can come through and try and push whatever improvements they want. It is through efforts like this that we are able to articulate our vision, our desires, and to partner with them to do improvements in a manner that suit our community. And so that's kind of framework setting. In answer to traffic calming and signal gap closures, the issues are really centered around how fast traffic goes. Right now, speeds, I think the speed limit is 35 and people often drive 45 and higher on the corridor. The faster cars go, the more impactful and the higher severity collisions are. So from a safety perspective, while maintaining required throughput, calming that traffic to a more reasonable level to reduce injuries and fatalities along the corridor, the entire corridor, of which we have issues in town and next to us, is important. And so by narrowing of lanes, which is a traffic calming measure, putting in bulb outs and even putting in bike lanes visually narrows the roadway to help calm traffic down. Additionally, I think everybody here can attest to how difficult it is to walk along El Camino and how difficult it is to cross El Camino. So without assistance, whether it's through hawk beacons or traffic signals, choose your poison, it's near impossible to cross a 6-lane highway. The median islands that we have don't have a pedestrian refuge. You can't stand and stop in the middle of the intersection. If you can't make it all the way across, you can't make it all the way across because there's no place to stand and stop. So with a wider median island, for example, at the intersections, in a lot of places, there's a place to stand. You cross half the intersection. There's a push button to help you get across that other half. And so this is not telling us where. That's in our study. Okay? But we know we have that problem. And so we're trying to collectively, we're working in our town. Every other jurisdiction, as you saw in Cassie's slide, there are studies going on up and down the corridor. And this effort is intended to help everybody on the corridor get their vision done. Does that help?
Vice Mayor.
I'm gonna just ask my question in a different way.
Okay?
People have read traffic signal gap closures to mean light at every intersection. Is that?
No,
That's
I'm
at the
gonna
discretion of the
say-
town, right? Or
What's that?
that would be at the discretion of the town.
It will be in partnership, the intent is in partnership with the town. If we don't have a crossing, there's no point in having so I'll give an example. We have several T intersections into El Camino Real. There's no reason, if we're not pushing people to cross there and they can walk over to the next intersection, then that's a reasonable place for a traffic signal. And it doesn't have to be as I said, it doesn't have to be a full traffic signal. The key is really trying to make it safe and easier for mobility to those destinations that we find important.
So I want to just circle back and make sure what I thought I heard Cassie say about the streets changes under study, which then I heard Councilmember Widmer make his comments, about that each Atherton doesn't have to do all of this.
No.
Okay, we don't have to do all the things that are listed here.
Yeah, yeah.
What we do is, you know,
I get
specific to
I get the
Atherton.
correction that she made.
Okay, good.
However,
I just wanted
all we
to make
had
that
was the charts to
clarification.
make a comment on.
All right, okay.
So
So
just,
let's continue on with her presentation, because I know that there's a lot of members of the public who'd like to make their comments also.
yeah, and I'll keep the rest of the presentation brief. But the main thing is that, as you said, the corridor is so different along the corridor. So these are all the various types of approaches we would be taking, working with cities. Some places need, you know, different treatment than what you need here. So this is just like the universe of options, but it doesn't mean that we're
And
gonna
you're
say,
not advocating bus lanes that
No.
just go solid bus.
No.
This is like the third time bus lanes have come up though, since I've been on the council.
I know, we're there. I don't think that's an option for us. Anyway.
next slide, please. So GBI, as Robert was mentioning, builds on plans and projects in Atherton. So
that'd be good.
the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, the CCAG County Local Road Safety Plan, and the El Camino Real Complete Streets Corridor Study. These are all inputs to the action plan, and we'll be, you know, referencing these studies, and these will take, you know, precedence over, you know, what we decide on a countywide basis. So,
But be aware that the Atherton Bike Ped Master Plan is on hold and being completely replaced right now.
okay, let's get to that.
2014.
Okay, next slide. Next slide. So I'm actually gonna invite Jess to speak on this slide also, but one of the major benefits of this effort is that Samtrans, the TA, Caltrans, MTC, CCAG, we're all working together to figure out how to fund this program. So as Robert mentioned, we have a need of something like $750 million for the whole corridor. You know, if you drive in Burlingame or other parts of the corridor, you know that the streets are pretty worn down and in misrepair. So there's a lot of need for improvements. So the entire cost is quite high and something that's way beyond an individual city's, you know, ability to deliver, even their segment of the corridor. And what we're bringing in terms of what is, you know, Samtrans's stake in all of this is that, you know, we really want these improvements to happen, and we will work as hard as we can to, you know, seek federal funding, seek state funding with the TA's assistance to deliver this program. And right now, this is a timeline that you can see here. One thing just to note is this is gonna take a while. It's gonna take 8 to 10 years to actually see the construction improvements. So the reason why it's so long is the Caltrans process is very extensive. And right now we're in the far left box, which is the conceptual planning. There's a lot of words on this slide, but basically it goes from conceptual planning to design to construction. Just a heads up as to, like, you know, we're on for a long ride. It's gonna cost a lot of money, but we're committed to accomplishing this. Next slide. Oh, Jess, did you want to speak? Sorry, go back one slide.
I'll be quick. So just again, I'm Jess Manzi. I'm the Director of Project Delivery with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. For folks who don't know who we are, we're the agency that collects and administers the half-cent sales tax for transportation that's collected in the San Mateo County. And so we're excited to be a partner in this project. Like, as Cassie mentioned, it's going to be a very expensive and long process to go through with all the jurisdictions in the county. But we're excited to be a part of that, and we want to be able to help support each individual community implement their vision for the corridor. And we have both our own funds that we collect through the sales tax, as well as a lot of experience in leveraging our sales tax money to get external grants. And so we look forward to working with, you know, each community, including Atherton, to identify ways to help fund your vision for El Camino.
Next slide. So this is where we just turn it to all of you to have a quick discussion about the goals, process, and next steps that I went over. So what goals do you have for the corridor? How can we best work together to advance this vision? And are you supportive of the GBI process as we described it? And I've listed here the goals that were on the previous slides, just so you can reference back. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. So I just want to, kind of set the stage a little bit. This is a receive and discussion. There's no action that's going to be taken by council at this time. It's an informational only. And, we're here to present what the whole, well, for the whole corridor. And that, keep in mind, we have 1.5 or 1.6 miles out of the whole 22. So we have a short section that's very different from everybody else. So do you have another comment? Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. But on the 7th slide, it shows the entire corridor and all the different studies that are happening along the corridor. Can you walk us through, I know we've been on ours for 3 years. I know Redwood City started before us. I know Coleman just got a big grant and they're starting something. So it feels like a lot of this has already started, so it makes sense to have us all work together, especially because it's very expensive. But I think it would be useful for us to know what are other jurisdictions doing as it relates to bike lanes, if they're more advanced and sidewalks, whatever, as a preview of what we might be considering or being to match our neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, do you mind just going back to slide 7, just for the.
where are they compared to us time-wise? So
Yeah.
mostly I'm tracking Redwood
The
City and
studies
Menlo
are
Park.
slide 10.
No, that's a great question, and there's a lot of,
Lots of.
we have a lot of herding cats, or I don't know, too many cooks in the kitchen, one of those phrases. So just to give you I guess at a broad level, most cities haven't made a decision yet about what they want on the corridor. They're still in the planning phase. That Atherton's a little bit farther along. You all did your planning study, but I would say most cities are still considering options currently, and in about a year they'll have a better sense of where they're at. The exceptions of this are some of the ones you mentioned. So Colma is in the design phase, so they know they want bike lanes, class 4, you may know, class 4 bike lanes on El Camino. That's a very different segment of the corridor. There's a lot of right of way in Colma, and a lot of need there for better bike and other types of infrastructure. So just going from the top, Daly City, South San Francisco, still don't know quite where they're still in the planning phase, not quite advanced quite to where you are. CCAG, San Bruno Millbrae is also at the planning phase. Burlingame is a pretty notable exception because they're actually about to start construction. So Caltrans led that process. That was, multiple, probably 10 years. I don't know how many years they spent. Long time. That's a huge undertaking because all the eucalyptus trees and all of that. Central County that ECR Central County study is a project that Samtrans is leading in partnership with 4 jurisdictions: San Mateo, San Carlos, Belmont, and Redwood City. And we're also in the planning phase. Redwood City is, you may know better, but I think entering PA, entering design, they have their preferred option.
Well, it's
I
still.
think they got us.
They just
building
finished
buildings.
the-
They just finished,
Yeah.
so they're just starting the environmental phase.
Yeah.
And then Menlo Park is also. So I would say you all plus Burlingame and Tacoma are kind of leading the pack in terms of having more clarity of, Robert mentioned there were 2 options that were advanced in the Atherton Camino plan. So I would say most likely what's going to happen in your jurisdiction is, what's in your plan. However, there are segments of the corridor that are seeing pretty different treatments based on the local needs.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna piggyback a little bit. Because Redwood City is further along than us, it's actually a project that is led by Caltrans as well. And that's through their SHOP program, which is the State Highway.
Operations protection.
There you go.
SHOP. State Highway
Operations Protection. Okay, and so there are a variety of reasons why that project moved forward, which include the state of repair of the highway as well as safety issues that were identified along the corridor. They are implementing predominantly protected bike lanes along the corridor. In Redwood City, they already have sidewalks up and down the corridor. And so that project, in essence, will terminate at Selby as they transition from Redwood City to what we have, because you don't abruptly end improvements. It'll transition out to be quote unquote existing at the Selby intersection. So by the time we get rolling with our stuff, that project's gonna be finished, and so we will be tying into whatever improvements they have. And so, that's kind of the state of the corridor right now.
So Robert, I've heard some people say we already have on the side of the road, the white stripe, the white line that is kind of designating a bike lane that we could just kind of use that.
I will correct the terminology. It is a roadway shoulder.
It's a roadway shoulder.
It is not a bike lane. It's not a bikeway facility. Folks ride on it so that they don't have to ride in the travel lane. But it is just a shoulder so that if somebody were to break down, they can pull over to the side. We have, if you're trying to walk along El Camino, I think everybody will test that it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. You're either walking in that same shoulder or you're walking in mush or vegetation or other things that are just at the edge of the pavement. As you recall, while we were under construction for this town center, we put in protective barriers on El Camino Real to provide kind of a walking space to get from Ashfield over to Maple so that folks can get to the park and back and forth. And so just a reminder, when we did that, that short stretch was 2 lanes and we didn't really experience too much difficulty. But again, we don't know.
2 blocks.
Yeah, so right now, the plan is that through the Samtrans effort and our next phase is they're gonna get the project initiation document through Caltrans, which will include both of our alternatives for further evaluation, helping us get to that next step so that we can later make the decision on which of those alternatives we would like to move forward with.
All right. Any other questions or comments from council members? Then we'll open up for public. Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, I've got.
You've got a number of them.
Well, I can just start with the comments.
Okay.
So you ask in your final slide what our goals are for the corridor. How can you best work with us to advance, or how can we best work together to advance a GBI vision, and are we supportive of the GBI process as described? And what I've heard you say today is different than I've heard in the past, which is that your goal is to support our vision for our portion of the corridor. And if in fact that is your process to support our vision for our portion of the corridor, then yes, I support it. If though you have an intent to implement a vision, irregardless of what our vision is, I absolutely don't support it. And I think it's very important because, as has been articulated, we are somewhat different in that we don't have any retail or commercial in this corridor. And because we don't have any retail or commercial, it's true that people drive fast. And there's a safety problem, which I think everyone can recognize. And I'd say for our priorities, safety is critical, and we want to address that. And I'm sure we share that vision. But you need to understand, almost every household in Atherton has to drive to get to the store. Now, there may be a few people that imagine that they're gonna be able to bicycle to get to the store, which they probably will do before they're 40. But there's a very large percentage of this population that is over 60, and everyone has to drive to go buy things and to take care of whatever they need to take care of on their property. So I am very sensitive to our residents and their need to be able to drive. So I'm very concerned about anything that's going to create greatly increased congestion. And I know there's lots of theories about how you manage roadways and numbers of lanes and how that impacts congestion, and I'm not going there. But I'm concerned about it. I do, and I don't think that El Camino is safe, and in Atherton, that El Camino is safe for either pedestrians or cyclists. I'd like to see it be, and I do think that there are people that use it to walk on and to ride bicycles on, not very many. If you really count the number of people, for example, that use El Camino versus Atherton Avenue, there's a lot more people walking and cycling on Atherton Avenue than on El Camino, for a good reason. It's not safe on El Camino. So how do we address that? I think we should find a way to address that, and narrowing the lanes is good. I think that will reduce the speed. I support reducing the speed limit on the street. I think that putting in a bike lane, it would be good. I think that putting 2 bike lanes on each side of the street, you can't do it with 3 lanes on each side of the street. I just don't know how that would work. And I'm very familiar with the street. I live in Atherton and I drive it every day, like everybody else. If you're gonna go anywhere, you're typically gonna drive on El Camino at some point. So, I think it's very important that we be sensitive to those concerns of the people that live here, or else there's gonna be a rebellion against whatever the GBI initiative is, and I hope it's not one that gets imposed on us against what our vision is. In terms of safety, I would say the issue of pedestrians and cyclists along the corridor is a real issue, and we need to address that issue. I think there are 2 intersections that are critical that have to be addressed. One is Selby Lane, and the other is Atherton Avenue. And at Atherton Avenue, we have a light there, but we have an absolutely horrible crosswalk. It's horrible to get across El Camino or to get across Fair Oaks on the east side of El Camino. And if we're fixing El Camino Real, we have to fix that intersection because it's a disaster.
Okay, all right, Councilmember Whitmer.
We'll give it, you have a lot of great ideas here. Lighting is specifically one that I think has come up and been called out in some of the accidents that have happened. I realize Palo Alto is not part of this county. During our discussion of making 2 different plans, we were advised by our public works director that, of course, the street is Caltrans, and they're going to do what they want to do. And I heard that that's what happened down in Palo Alto. They didn't want to have what they have today because Caltrans says, well, that's what we're doing. And so that's one of my concerns as to, are we really going to get what we're saying is important to us? And so.
Yeah, I quickly want to just respond to both of your comments. I really appreciate just the context of just how safety is a real issue. One thing I wanted to note is that we did an analysis of El Camino up and down the county, and Selby Lane is actually the most dangerous intersection in the whole county. So your experiences are backed by data. And I'll note that Palo Alto was actually included in this effort. We are including them because we wanted to have continuity of Route ECR, which goes all the way to Palo Alto Transit Center. So we're including Palo Alto, but we're definitely I would say their experience is one of the reasons why we're doing this plan, and why we're working with, all of the jurisdictions, is we want to get ahead of these repaving, these shop projects, and have a comprehensive vision for the corridor so that it doesn't end up being, decisions made at the last moment and, kind of this limited community input opportunity and, things shoved down your throat. So we're trying to create this, trying to support you in making sure that, the local planning process that you put in place is it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, do you have any comments that you like?
No, I mean, I think this is a great initiative. I think we're ahead of, as you said, we're ahead. So like, we're talking nuance about our stretch of Atherton, but of El Camino, but we've already had a number of meetings about this. And we have 2 plans and we've had traffic study. We know you guys have not, but not all of you were in that meeting. You should look at those meetings because there's a lot of really good information in there about the traffic and volume of traffic and what levers we can pull and all that stuff. So I feel like we've already covered a lot of the nuance of that in that meeting, so I don't have a ton to add, but I think if this can help us get funding and if this can help us move faster and if this can help us, address intersections before we even start thinking about doing big infrastructure changes faster, I'm super supportive. It's very jarring to hear that we have the number one most dangerous intersection, and it's not like a number one that I think any of us are proud of, so we should fix that.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment, and any member of the public has to come up to the podium and make their comments. We're gonna limit you to 3 minutes. I wish we could limit us to 3 minutes, but no. We like to talk, so. Jerry.
Jerry Lugers. I'd like people to think about the timeline that Cassie described. These changes aren't for us, it's for the next generation. And we're gonna see with SB 9, maybe SB 79, and all the changes, we're gonna see a lot more housing around here. And that means a lot more traffic. And I think people are going to naturally go, I'm tired of being in my car. I have 2 children. The last thing they ever want to do is drive a car. And this is a real change in attitudes for Americans. But I ask you to think about, this is 20 years from now or 30 years from now that we're deciding how it's going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else?
I just have a question, just a question. Have you considered an overpass to get over El Camino or an underpass as opposed to all this? It's like a highway. Most highways, that's the way pedestrians got across. This is like more like a highway than a city street.
Okay. Anyone else like to make a, yes.
That was a
Carol,
question.
please.
Can I ask him a question? That was a question.
Yeah,
No, I was just asking them. Can't they answer the question? Have they considered that?
no,
They
we're
can't
not
answer.
answering questions. These are
Well, I
comments.
have a question.
That was a
This
good
is
comment.
then
They
a
got
fait
it.
accompli, this highway grand design.
It is not a fait accompli.
It is not a fait.
No, we haven't decided on exactly what it is, but through the Grand Boulevard Initiative, it's happening
In our town, it's
in
not fait
other
accompli,
jurisdictions.
but for the county as a whole, is this going ahead in one form or another?
Yes.
Yes.
Anything else? Any other comments?
There's one person online.
Okay, shall we take them? Perfect. We're gonna take it online and then we'll get you, Zach, okay?
Mr. Seabolt, you should be able to speak.
Thank you. My question is, what entity will make the decision in terms of what will happen on El Camino Real and our stretch of, on Atherton stretch of ECR? And the reason I'm asking the question is when there was a meeting earlier this year and several proposals were put forth. Quite candidly, I had many neighbors respond to that meeting with the sense that the decision has already been made, but we don't know by whom.
Answering questions or comments?
If you want to answer, I'll check
Caltrans
it
is
in.
the ultimate.
Think
People have
we have not, yeah,
We should answer it.
We should let Woody ask his too.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll answer yours, but, I think the decision has not been made one way or another on the exact design.
So
We have a couple of.
we started,
Explain the two
Yeah.
that we advanced.
Yeah.
certainly,
advanced-
so I'll say that we started with, I don't know, over 7 to 10 different concepts for El Camino Real as we initiated the complete street study. As that went through public input and further analysis, that got whittled down to, I think, 3 or 4. And then after further input and coming to the city council, it was whittled down to 2, I'll call them more distinct alternatives. We're constrained with the right of way. The land that is available is the land that is available. And within that, one option is to keep 3 lanes in each direction and utilizing what space is remaining to provide basically minimum compliant widths of sidewalks and a bike lane. That bike lane would just be a striped bike lane, unprotected. The second alternative to get, that was suggested to move forward was to consider what's termed a road diet, losing a lane in each direction and repurposing that space for a wider, more comfortable pedestrian facility and a protected, buffered and or protected bike lane. So providing some additional space for cyclists from the vehicle through lane. In some cases, it would be buffered, such as like on Middlefield and Valparaiso, where there's a striped separation between the vehicles and the cyclist, and potentially putting in some sort of protective barrier, undefined what that is, to provide a greater degree of safety and protection for cyclists. And so those alternatives are suggested to move forward in the concept plan that was developed. No decision has been made as of yet. Further analysis is required so that decisions can be made. And so that's kind of like that broad umbrella overview. And the ultimate decision maker is Caltrans, meaning that the roadway belongs to Caltrans. We have our desires and our vision. We have to work with them to have them approve that vision for implementation. If through this effort, we're able to articulate our desires and have Caltrans be aware of them, so as they move forward with their projects, they have a consideration saying, hey, well, the town already did some analysis. This is what they would like to see. Hopefully they can help us implement those visions. If they are moving faster like they did in Palo Alto, they can say, well, we want bike lanes on the roadway, and they're going to start moving forward with it. And there was some back and forth with Palo Alto. They did do some additional public outreach, but ultimately the bike lanes were installed. So in answer, you want me to answer Woody's question?
Yes.
We looked at a variety of things we were doing our corridor study. Specifically, the idea of an overpass or underpass was not really thought of as feasible due to the amount of space, land that would be required to either go over and under. You can consider what folks are doing for overpasses and underpasses for the train corridor and how much space that requires. And so realistically, it's not a feasible alternative.
Just pedestrian.
for anybody. So you can say for vehicles, it's difficult. For pedestrians, it would need to be ADA compliant. And so to do that, that means that you have a maximum slope of 5% to get up and over, I think, a minimum clearance of 17 feet over the highway. And so the space required for that is rather excessive. And that you're just talking to get up and over. That addresses one direction. I'm gonna enact a vision. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been to Las Vegas, but you look at what they have for pedestrian facilities to cross their the strip, and how big those ramps and things are, elevators and whatnot. So that's from a practical standpoint, there's really not enough room for it.
Sam?
Well, I have a lot of Rick's comments. I think they're great. And, you know, El Camino Real is also a backup for when if there's ever a problem with, you know, flooding or earthquake, it becomes impassable. And it's just an issue if they need 3 lanes. That narrowing down to 2 lanes would be a problem. You know, if global warming and there's a seasonal tide and of some sort, you run out of, you run into a problem, and not all cars are going to go on 280. You need to have 3 lanes in El Camino Real in that issue. There's, I think it's important, you know, to push with Caltrans, enact them first, the residents first approach to this as we live here. And it's important for, I think, the staff as well as for the council to take the interest of the residents and make sure that we, you know, that we end up with an outcome that's going to be pleasant for the people who live here. And thirdly, you know, El Camino and Selby, my time here spanned 51 years. I think most of the, if not all the accidents there are at fault of the drivers, not the intersection. I think every single instance there, yeah, the intersection is not at fault. I think maybe there's an issue with speed of the drivers, negligence of the driver. I've made plenty of left turns on El Camino Real. I just have to wait for a break with the traffic. And if somebody needs to cross, they can go over to Fifth Avenue. There's a light there. Maybe if there's more people that are crossing these days, possibly a pedestrian beacon, but certainly not full signalization. Most of the people I've talked to who live in my area of town, they like the rural area and prefer to be able to keep it that way, not have full signalization.
Okay, anyone else this time? Hi.
I hope to remind everybody that Menlo Park has 2 lanes and River City has 2 lanes starting at Woodside. I used to live in Menlo Park and commute to River City on El Camino. And I get to Atherton like, yes! This was a long time ago and I'm really sorry. And I go like 55 miles an hour on the right-hand lane around everybody. And that was not safe. I was 20. So sorry, and I didn't get in an accident. But having 3 lanes after 2 lanes is super dangerous. And we just goes back down to 2 lanes once you get to River City anyway. So having 3 lanes here doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense and increase the flow because you're just it's gonna be coming back together.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment?
There's another person online.
Okay, shall we tee them up? And then, Robert, you, okay. Online? No.
Roshank, you have Roshanak?
Yes. Hi, thank you very much. My name is Roshanak. I'm sure pretty much everyone around this table has driven up and down El Camino. I'd like you to compare driving through Menlo Park versus driving through the Atherton segment. My perspective is a little bit different than the previous speaker. And imagine for a moment that you're a resident of this town and you're trying to get to wherever you need to go, an appointment or something. the traffic is crawling in Menlo Park. You have red lights almost at every intersection. You can't get through. It's like, oh my goodness, let me get through. And when you get to Atherton, it's more of a freedom. Of course, I would not advocate to drive fast or in an unsafe manner, but you can finally get towards where you're trying to get to. So some of the residents end up zigzagging through the back streets to avoid that section of El Camino in Menlo Park that is very congested, or Redwood City for that matter, to be able to get to their appointment. So I kind of feel like we're spreading the problem of this traffic crawling through the 2 lanes of congested traffic with lots and lots of red lights. We're distributing that problem up to an area where we don't have that problem, especially since we don't have any businesses for people to want to visit and so on. So I would highly recommend considering the geography of Atherton, as Rick DeGolia, Councilman Rick DeGolia pointed out, the average age of our population, where we really cannot ride bicycle, a large percentage, and have to drive to get to shopping, to wherever they need to go. So please consider those in your decisions as opposed to a blanket design for all these segments. Thank you very much.
Robert?
Thank you. I'd like to say that I've lived in this town for about 50 years. And I think in those 50 years, I've driven about every part of El Camino that there is. It's long, as everybody knows. This is unique. This is our town. This is our little bit of corridor. You're going to screw up this town if you try to change it in some radical way. This would be a disaster, I think, in my opinion. And for some remote set of authorities to try and dictate how we live in our town is not a democratic concept at all. And I reject that completely. If one size fits all solution to a problem doesn't work in all situations. You know, this is Atherton. It's the way it is, always been. We want it to stay that way. Amen.
Anyone else like to speak at this time? If not, I will bring it back to council, and we'll thank our guest speakers for giving us presentation. Thank you so much for all the information, and we'll close this item on our agenda. And we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is item number 2. It is, Anthony, do you want to tee it up, or should I just kind of?
I'm happy to introduce it. So, thank you, Mayor and Council. As we know, we had a vacancy on City Council due to former Councilmember Diana Hoffman-McMillan's resignation, which effective on September 1st. The council opted to conduct a recruitment process. We solicited candidates. The closure of that period was Friday, the 26th. At that time, we had 7 candidates. Over the course of the last few days, a few folks have withdrawn, and so we currently now have 3 remaining candidates for the council's consideration. Those 3 candidates are Eric Lane, Christine David, and Lindsay Sykes. I'm not familiar with Lindsay Sykes, but all of them received invitations, and I believe all are present. At least Mr. Lane and Christine are present. So if you note, there were a few key criteria for selection and some options for you to consider for nomination. Option number 2 was really designed to give you an opportunity to discreetly come up with a top 2. I think now that we have a much smaller candidate pool, option number 1 is certainly a viable option, where after you give each one of the candidates an opportunity to present themselves, an interview, and have some dialogue, we can entertain a motion from the council. As long as that motion gets a second, we can take a vote, and then, your options to be chosen. I want you to remind you that if you choose to, we can still continue to recruit, but we will need to have a decision by the end of the month so that we can, stay in line with the new code and ordinances.
Okay. All right, thank you. In the staff report and the agenda report, I'm just gonna read some of our key criteria for consideration for the evaluations that we had publicized. Someone have experience in your town affairs, engagement in town committees or activities, knowledge of issues that the town is facing, such as finances, pensions, housing, transportation, etc., an overall approach to decision-making, awareness of the town's goals and objectives, an awareness of the role of policymakers, and knowledge of the Brown Act, which is really critical. No, it's funny. Yes.
So I think there's another criteria that
Yes.
wasn't included in the staff report and which for me is a condition to support anybody that we would appoint. And that is that the person commits not to run in the next election.
I agree.
And the reason that I feel like that is important is that for the first 60 years that Atherton was a town, maybe 80 years, but for the first long stretch that Atherton was a town, every time a council member knew that council member wouldn't run for re-election, that council member resigned. Every single time. That council member resigned and enabled the remaining members of the council to appoint the replacement so that that appointee was an incumbent in the next election. And in every case except maybe one, that incumbent won. So, and I think that's very undemocratic. And therefore, I think a criteria that's important, at least to me, is that anyone that puts their name in for appointment commits that they won't run.
Like
In the
Mayor
next
Lee.
election.
In the next election. Okay.
In the next election. Yeah.
And this appointment.
And that's not wanting to discourage anyone from running. I want to encourage people to run. I just am not going to appoint them as an appointee, so they're a guaranteed incumbent.
And the term of this appointee would go until November 2026.
But
Correct, until we
probably
can have a
until we
special
swear
election.
in the next person, which would be the December meeting.
Well,
But there'll be an election.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
yeah, there'll be,
yeah, formality. Okay, so we have two of our three candidates that have applied. And who would like to go first? You want to flip a penny?
You can start.
Okay, Christine.
You want me to do it?
Christine David.
I'm assuming you're going to ask me questions. Christine David, Atherton, resident since 1999, and very proud to be invited to answer your questions.
I think that, I don't have questions.
Well,
Do you have a question?
what's your
Yeah.
position about running in the next election?
My position is it's undemocratic. If I were appointed, I'm not, I haven't been elected into the position as the four of you have. You know, we've elected you to your seats, you've won them because you have the greater number of votes to get the seats that you won. And if you're an appointee, you're serving at the council's request, and you're not voted into the seats as you are. So I think it's very unfair if someone were to get this appointment and then run again for an election.
So Christine, how active have you been in the town?
Oh, really active.
You're very active. Yeah. So,
It's my favorite volunteer pastime in the town. Thanks to you all, I've been appointed to a few different committees, starting with the CCAC, and it was my pleasure to work with you all to try and figure out the best way to develop our community center and this beautiful place, how to get it promoted throughout the town, get the town interested in it, and then to get it financed. So that was a great pleasure. I went from that to the Park and Rec Committee, which is another great jewel of the town, and it was my pleasure to work there with our committee to try and figure out the best way to move forward with that. Park and all of the changes that are going on there according to what the town would like to see done, according to the town council. From that, I went to transportation. That was very interesting and educational, and talking about safety and security and, you know, how people get around the town without having incident. That was a great education. I was also on the board of Atherton Now, which was before CCAC, or with CCAC when we were developing interest in the town, development of this community center. So the last thing, the most recent thing that I just love is being actively involved on the board of the library, the Friends. And that has been just a great joy for me. We're working with great people of the town of Atherton to try and help support the library, which needs no support whatsoever. It's doing great. It's a beautiful facility. The staff is wonderful, and we're there to be of service to them in their needs. And so that has been incredibly rewarding for me.
Councilmember Whitmer.
Yes.
So, you have been and currently are on a number of committees which the council and the town help fund.
Yes.
And-
What one now?
Well, so you've listed several, so how do you feel about having to resign those positions? Because you can't be on the council and those, like,
So
for
are you
example,
saying-
ADAP, for example.
I'm not on ADAP anymore.
What's on your resume?
I was. These are positions I've held. But I have resigned from that position. So the one position I do have right now
Is the library.
is the library. And would that be affected?
No, it
We'll
would,
have to check with George, I guess.
Okay.
It's not a town committee.
it's not.
Okay, all right, okay, then no.
I would like to very much remain active on that board in whatever position. It would be helpful, but, you know. I
All right, okay, thanks.
What are your favorite things about Atherton?
Pardon?
What are your favorite things about Atherton?
The people. The community. You know, believe it or not, we've got a great community of really amazing people from all over the world that come with different perspectives, different traditions, different cultures, different needs. And that to me is fascinating. And meeting those needs is a great joy for me. And hearing what those needs are is really a pleasure, and trying to address those needs through the library, which is another great pleasure. So that is my favorite part, is the community.
Rick? Any questions?
What, I know you're quite familiar with the entire effort that we engaged in around the housing element. And what zoning changes we made in order to get that element approved. What is your perspective where we should, how we should go forward? Knowing that we may have some difficulty in getting multifamily housing built at the college in particular, that we need to get those.
You mean to say if that doesn't come about? Oh, wow. I guess we're going to have to do it elsewhere in the town. You know, we're gonna have to share care, is my perspective, is we all have to share in the housing initiative and the development of housing. Where it is, that's a very difficult thing I've watched you work through for the past 5 years, is it now? That's a very difficult question to answer. I liked, generally speaking, the concepts that you proposed. Housing in the park, I have a problem with that. I think the park is donated to be a park, and housing is not part of being a park. So I have a really big problem with that. I think putting housing on El Camino can be a real problem for congestion if we're talking about more congestion and more need for people to use, you know, bicycle lanes, walking. Buses would be fine, but I think that's gonna be congestive. Yes, I do live 3 houses in from El Camino, but I still think it causes congestion. So I think it needs to be dispersed throughout the town, and yes, it may be in my backyard. You know, there's maybe nothing we can do about it at this point, but that is my perspective.
All right, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Lane.
You'll probably want to continue to do candidates. Eric Lane, I've been on the planning commission 14 years, and this is my 14th year, it's actually 13 and a half, and been the chair of the of the committee for like 11 and heavily involved with the housing element. And in answer to your question, I think the combination of things we still need to do, we need to continue to incentivize ADU expansion as a primary approach. And then also, we're already seeing some big changes to the way that developers are developing land in certain areas, like over in my area, over by the Fair Oaks, Acena area, where we're seeing the SB9 be utilized with both a home and an ADU on it. So we're starting to see numbers that you'd expect to see if people wanted to start using those kind of splits in areas where the surrounding area is small. So I think that Fair Oaks area is probably going to be an area that you're going to see. Also, I think that as we get next generation owners in the bigger properties, you'll probably see more lot splits. You'll also see more new properties after the split with ADUs attached. So I think we did a good job of getting the plan approved, which wasn't a fait accompli by any means. And we're doing a really good job on maintaining the momentum on the numbers, and we look good so far. And also, I think we have to still continue doing whatever we can at the state level to make them realize that this is really bad planning law. Anytime you come up with a law that says you can move a property from one unit to split it and then have up to 3 on each unit, or 3 or more on each unit, and then have no parking, no planning traffic requirement. That's just plain bad planning. This is my 3rd planning commission, as you know. And if I had planned that with that standard on any of the committees prior to this law, I would have been thrown off the planning commission. So, there's still work to do, but I think we did a really good start, and we did a really good process of inclusion. As you know, we did a lot of open sessions to really get people aware of the fact that no plan is the worst plan, and getting a plan approved that we can maintain the quality of the community is really important.
So I'll take the first step here. So Eric, from your resume, it looks like you've been, you were chair and vice chair of the Pleasant Hills Planning Commission started in 1984.
Right,
So
when I was in my
you
late
were like
20s.
knee-high to
Yeah,
rest,
I was,
right?
yeah.
And then Contra Costa Planning Commission, 88 to 92, Raven Good Educational Foundation.
I was a
Audit
founder of that and the first donor.
the audit, okay. So you have some financial background as well as, basic, a lot of planning.
Right,
experience.
plus on the corporate side, all that's the community side. The corporate side was
Yes,
I was in charge of the international organization in the high tech.
Say that again.
I was in charge of a group within the high tech organizations and high growth companies like Silicon Graphics when it was hot,
Yeah.
and AMD when it was hot, and Intuit, which is still hot for 10 years at Intuit. I had a global staff. So, and the budget associated with that. And when I was on the, I was elected twice with Mount Diablo's Unified School District. I used to live in the East Bay over in the Pleasant Hill County area, and I've been here for 25 years. I've always told everybody that when I was a kid, my dad went to law school at Hastings, and the only thing we could afford was to go on a drive. And we'd go down to Atherton and Palo Alto and drive around looking at the places that we would buy if my dad got out of law school. He ended up going back into that to be there. But I live in one of those houses. I had to marry into it, but
Harder than you think.
it wasn't much of a sacrifice.
Eric, first off, you've done a terrific job on Planning Commission. Thank you very much for your service. I know you are extremely well prepared for what you do and are very well prepared. And you do homework, going out to all the different sites. You take the time to do the job right, and I sincerely appreciate that and admire that work. And I think that's some of the type of activity and work that we would need to have, here with somebody on the council. What who do you think would, step up at the planning commission to become the chair?
Well, that's one of the things. First of all, we have the best planning commission, group that we've had in years right now. We had some spotty things going on earlier, for a period of time, and I really appreciate the fact that you helped to get some people on the commission that I really do think add a lot of value. Bob Politos was vice chair, and I asked him to be the vice chair, and in case I aged out or had health issues or whatever, which I don't have. And so he's ready to take it to the next level. Sandy's really great. I mean, the people on here right now, all of them could take that role, and someone who's done a lot of the work on other committees might be a really good opportunity for them to get involved.
And, you know, the mayor alluded to this, I just would like to dig a little deeper. One of the big things that we do, of course, is go through the budget.
Yes.
And Robert does a terrific job of explaining it to us and things like that, but, you know, it's being the fiduciary, we need to make sure that we're spending the money right on the right things. And so, can you go a little bit more into detail as to some of your activities and?
Yeah, well, the $44 million budget and change that the city has is a pretty big budget. And the responsibility for corporate, I probably have a $25 million budget at various points, and lower than that when we're racing along. At the school board, it was probably more. Right now, the Mount Diablo School District is more like a $400 million budget.
Okay.
But the corporate was a 25 million. And when I was on the school board, it was probably more in the range of 200 million. And that I would just say it's 36 schools. Was it 36,000 kids, 5 labor unions, and 150,000 ecstatic parents. And so it ends up being, it was a real thing. And it was also the time when they were reducing spending on schools. And my whole thing about being elected was you only get one shot at a kid going to 3rd grade, so don't screw it up.
Right.
So, you know, a number of things we did were about how to rechannel finances so we didn't have layoffs, how to go about the process of my favorite thing is I still play trumpet after from 4th grade until 34 years old. We got 4th grade instrumental back in the schools because we managed the funding well. We hired new superintendent. So I've had a lot of experience with dealing with not only spending, but also managing the spending so that it was auditable. I was 8 years on the draft committee, and we moved from my first $1,000 donation to $12 to $15 to $18 million a year. And in that time, we were audited, and we had things I've never seen before in audits, because I've had corporate audits too. No issues, no flagging changes, nothing, like 8 years in a row. And that's because we were on top of it. We not only asked for money, but we actually knew how we were spending. So I have a lot of experience with that, and I looked over the budget here, and I like his charts.
But Robert's gonna get us up to that 400 million.
Yeah.
He's working hard. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you applied, and I appreciate the fact that you called and advised me trying to go do that. And again, thank you for everything you've done on.
Thank you for this opportunity too.
I don't think, is anybody else gonna ask?
You want me to leave the room?
No, you can't leave yet.
Oh.
No. Vice Mayor.
Okay, good. He said thank you, that was all.
That's the end. Well, I want to echo what Bill said. It's been amazing working with you on the planning commission, all of our joint meetings. I always appreciate you run a tight focused meeting. And I appreciate you have also experienced having a lot of public comment and a lot of managing a lot of feelings in a meeting. So around housing, and so I you know what you're getting into if you were to sign up for this, which I appreciate. If you were to leave the planning commission, I am worried about you not be on it anymore after a decade of you helming the ship, but it sounds like our committee is very functional.
It's strong, and also the term limit is 8 and I'm 14.
Yeah.
That happened because of a nuance of shutdown, and everybody thought, okay, maybe we should keep continuity going. And because I knew how to do online meetings, because I'd done that in a corporation, so I could do a remote meeting format successfully. And then another time I said, hey, you know, if nobody applies, I'll stay on, and then that happened twice. And so this is my last 9 meetings on the planning commission. I'm very comfortable with Bob and the people on the planning commission. All of them now go out and tour the sites. All of them do their homework. All of them show up. All of them are prepared. And that wasn't the case always. All right, and I had to navigate through that as a chair. I think that's good. And I always say that in my experience in community life, I've done some things that see the highest level of human behavior and the lowest. Site dump site. Redo the border of a school area where people bought a house to go to that school. And then the third thing is site a homeless shelter. All right, I've done those things as chair of the planning commission. That people come, they break things, and then and then there's a whole group of people who come up and say, you are so stupid, and you're really, really gonna fail. And by the way, your family, I know your family, and if you do go the wrong way, you're gonna get it, you'll find out how much this hurts you. So I've had those experiences in public life. I've dealt with them well, I think. And the key thing for me is model good neighbor behavior and elicit it. So, and the one thing with a homeless shelter, it was in Martinez, and it was an ex-church, the kitty corner across from the Shell refinery. All right, and then people in the neighborhood would come and say, this is gonna lower our neighborhood. It's a homeless shelter for abused moms with a couple of kids, and it was gonna be 35 at max. And people would come in. So I said, okay, I'm the chair. I said, so here's what we're gonna do. I need everybody to bring canned food, and when you come to speak, and just put it in there. So the next meeting, somebody goes, okay, listen, 2 cans. All right, and the next person bring it, take it, and the next person bring it up, hey, I brought some food. All right, so by the end of the meeting, we had a pile of food. People are looking at it. By the third meeting on that issue, the third or fourth, people understood that we were talking about making a good neighborhood. People understood that we were talking about helping people that needed help. People understood that we were not going to ruin the neighborhood. But because I didn't approach it like back, it was just let's just really look at what this is. These people need the food, okay? And it got to be a change in chemistry. And so my whole thing about in public life has been show what it looks like to be a good neighbor and help people be a good neighbor.
Yeah, what's your perspective on the next election? Is this a 1-year term for you?
I was thinking about going for 3 in a row. No, I mean, the only thing that could change that in my mind, other than, because I have no plans to vote to run, if there were a radical issue with the number of the people on the council, like 2 or 3 of you dropped out for whatever reason, and the continuity would make sense. That would be, but then I would also say to the people on is, I've been thinking that do we want continuity or not? So it would, if it were catastrophic or just like it was during the shutdown, it was like, can you help us get through this spot? And I'm fine with that.
But your plan is not to run.
I've run elections, I've won them. I've run elections at the governor level and been on part of that, and the presidential level. And I did Jimmy Carter's speech after he did the debate with Gerald Ford, I guess, or who it is. Yeah, during that year. So I've been involved with politics my whole life and in public life, but I just want to help.
So wait, you didn't quite answer Bill's question though.
I had no intention and I didn't apply for this to run for the job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Eric.
And I've thought about running before, but I always never wanted to do anything that disrupted you being on this council.
Okay. All right.
And I mentioned that his current seat is vacant this June, so that's what he
Yeah,
said.
that's what,
Yes.
yeah, that's what he explained that to me.
Yeah.
He was gonna be the off the planning commission anyway.
So we have one more candidate who has applied, her name is Lindsay Sykes. And I'm just gonna double check, is she online by any chance?
No, there's no Lindsay Sykes online unless she found it as, last four digits, 7321.
Okay, all right. All right, so, we've heard from, two candidates and, we have a third one that's made an application. Can we have discussion? Mr. Whitmer, do you have a?
Mayor
Lewis?
Yeah,
Yes, oh, wait a minute, we have a.
Sorry, just before,
That's Mona.
before there's discussion, we should take public comment on the candidates.
Okay.
There are any?
Members of the public want to speak, about any candidates?
Only one member.
We only have
Sorry.
one public here. You're on the spot. Yeah, now you're, okay, thank you, Mona. Bill?
Well, I think that both candidates are great. And I think we're lucky to have two people, minimum, we haven't heard from the third, but, to apply. I think at this point in time, Eric's experience and working with the town and working on the housing is probably the right thing for us to move forward. So I'd like to nominate, with all due respect to Christine, nominate Eric to take the role.
Okay, so we have a nomination. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it, but I want to thank both Eric and Christine for your service to the town. I mean, both of you have really given an enormous amount of service to this town. And I want to reiterate what Bill said about appreciating your applications. It's really good to see people that have been as connected to the town as each of you have and will continue to be applying for this position, because we're put into an unfortunate situation which we didn't expect. So thank you.
And before I call for the vote, I'd like to also say that, Christine, you have been involved in so many things and I've worked alongside of you, and I know that you would be a great team member, but I'm gonna cast my ballot for Eric. So can I call for a vote? All in favor for Eric Lane to be appointed?
Aye.
So,
Can I ask that we take a motion as to adopt the resolution, which is essentially doing what you did?
Which is-
Yeah, I can read it if you like.
Would you please?
Certainly. So, a motion to adopt the resolution to appoint Chair Eric Lane to the office of the city council for the unexpired term until special elections held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026.
Okay. So, okay.
For the term until November 2020.
Correct.
November
Okay.
20.
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, so his term is until November?
So his term will last until we elect and then candidates.
It's probably December. Yeah, Bill was right, he didn't clarify.
Yeah.
The election is where it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the swearing in at the
So
next
we
meeting?
have, well, we
It's
have a
up to you.
question, we have a question to ask Eric. Would
Yep.
you like to be
Eric?
sworn in right now, or do you want to wait until the next meeting 2 weeks from now so you could have your friends and family around to see you get sworn in?
And make the meeting longer.
You know what, I'll do it your way. I just want to make sure that when's the next planning commission is a month?
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That means I'm not on that when that happens, correct?
You'd be sworn in at the beginning of the meeting.
No, I'm
The
not.
beginning
Oh,
of
no,
August.
so-
Yeah, the
so-
next planning commission is after the next council meeting.
It is.
Okay, all right, so either way, I'd be
So
on.
either way, it's
Okay,
irrelevant.
good, all right.
Would you
So,
like to wait?
I don't need to wait, no, my wife is fine with doing this vicariously.
Shall we swear you in?
Yeah, we'll swear you in now.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, see you.
Okay.
All right,
Whoa.
where's the preacher?
Do I get to do it? I think I get to do
Yeah,
it,
I
right?
believe so.
I'll come to you, have it, right? I'll
Yeah.
come to you, I'll come to you.
Okay, you're gonna.
Yes.
So,
Do I do this?
Yeah,
All right,
Yes.
good.
and repeat after her.
repeat after me.
Okay.
I
Eric Lane,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the
Go ahead.
the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
That I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties about which I'm about.
So help you
Amen.
God.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you. All right, very good. All right, now I have to go study for the next meeting.
Mayor Lewis,
Packet, as you know.
That one's just a draft, so that you can see the type of resolution that we would adopt when we call the election. We don't have to do that one at this time.
Yeah, it's when we call the election,
Exactly.
which we'll do at the same time we call the election.
So what we have at that time is we have the 3 full-term seats and we have the short-term seats.
All right, great. All right, so, oh, we're sorry.
Okay,
to
Mayor
speak up.
Lewis, yeah, you got a motion to adjourn?
Mayor Lewis, can I
Okay,
just make one point of, so I just wanted to advise, and I think everyone knows this, but Mr. Lane is now automatically no longer on the planning commission because he has forfeited that position. And just as a reminder, he does have to file a Form 700 leaving office for planning commission and a Form 700 assuming office position within 30 days of today.
Somebody.
Oh,
Yeah, that'll. All right.
Okay.
All right, yes, I'll do
we're
that.
gonna know all about your finances.
And then
Hey,
we should,
you know about it.
we should put that in an announcement of the vacancy.
you always file.
I always file.
and I think we've already got.
But I think since we have a vice chair, then he needs to become the chair for at least the next meeting.
Of course,
Yeah, I'll get Hope up and let him know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but-
I'll tell him he's promoted.
He'll be thrilled.
Like anyway.
Okay, all right, we already adjourned. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mona.
Wow.
Thank you, Mona.
All right, good for you.